with us none other than John Densmore, who, as I'm sure you all know, was, is, and forever will be a founding member of and drummer for the Doors, indisputably one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. If numbers tell one story, we have over 100 million records sold worldwide. And when we listen to songs like Light My Fire, Riders on the Storm, Touch Me, People Are Strange, Soul Kitchen, LA Women, I think, these are timeless classics. And it's really John's supple, inventive beats and rhythms, the drumming, the way his drums are in playful dialogue with Robbie Krieger's guitar, Ray Manzarek's keyboard, and of course, Jim Morrison on vocals, that drives so many of these songs. In addition to pursuing music in many different directions, rock, jazz, guesting with Carlos Santana and Eddie Vedder, since the Doors disbanded in the early 70s, John is widely celebrated as a writer. His previous books include Riders on the Storm, My Life with Jim Morrison, and The Doors and the Seekers, Meetings with Remarkable Musicians and Other Artists. John has also written articles for publications including the Los Angeles Times, The Nation, and Rolling Stone. Most recently, and the reason we're here this evening, John has reissued The Doors Unhinged, Jim Morrison's Legacy Goes on Trial, with a brand new preface that highlights, I feel, the urgency of this book, which on one hand tells an often painful story of a contentious legal battle that John endured with his former bandmates, and we'll get into some of those details, over the use of the name The Doors. And on the other, it's a really persuasive and passionate call for fearless creativity and incorruptible artistry over commercialization and profit motive. I think is really the theme that runs through here. John Densmore, it's absolutely an honor for us to have you as a guest on the Bob Dylan Center Book Club. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Just to help situate us and get started, can you describe for us where you are? We see a drum set in the background. You're in Southern California, yes?
Whoa, thanks, Steve.
Sure.
I feel helium rising in my skull. To diffuse that a little, and I will describe where I am. I'm in my writing room, and those are my drums, and I'll tell you a story about this sign in a minute. But to diffuse me getting too egocentric, I've got this here. This was the Music Cares book, Tribute to Bob. And there's a quote of mine right here that says, "Congrats, Bob. With God on our side, inspired me to resist the Vietnam draft. I'm forever grateful, John Densmore. P.S. Thanks for the tambourine lyrics for my memoir." So I just wanted a tip of the hat to a big-time mentor of mine, Mr. Zimmerman.
That's very nice to hear. And of course, Dylan pops up a few times in The Doors Unhinged, and we'll touch upon some of those.
So the reason there's this sign back here behind my drums that says, wait a minute, what does it say? Morrison Street, Densmore Avenue. I was born in LA, and I was aware of Densmore Street in the Valley. And a few years ago, I had a little time, and I thought, oh, what the hell? Why don't I make a right turn and drive up Densmore Street, see what's up there? I go up a few blocks, and it crosses Morrison Street. Now, Steve, they named these streets when? Hundreds of years ago. So I take that as prophetic, huh?
That's something.
That's why and the signs were not together, and we got the mayor to let us put them together so we could do a photo op.
Very nice.
Anyway, yeah, I'm in my writing room where the muse I pray to visit.
Do you get behind the drum set still pretty regularly?
Well, actually, this year I really am involved in music. I'm almost done with an album with, are you ready? Chuck D.
Whoa.
Chuck D. I met a year or two ago, And then he sends me an email and he says, Chuck D plus John D equals dope. Whoa. And then he sends the DO in the Doors logo and the PE in Public Enemy logo. I thought, oh my God, this guy has got some concepts. So we've done, I don't know what you'd call it, alt hip hop.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's hip hop, but it's my drum sound, and I do a little rapping myself, and I also just finished a jazz album. Did the whole thing in 2 days, and this is a sweet story. Jack Holzman was the president of Elektra Records who signed the Doors. His son Adam idolized Ray Manzarek, our keyboard player. And so I remember seeing him in the studio, you know, this little kid, 8-year-old, 12-year-old. Well, he became so proficient on keyboards, Miles Davis hired him. Holy moly. And so he came to my house a year ago and we jammed, just him and me, and it was so fun. We did a whole album a month ago in a couple days. And it's instrumental jazz, but we covered a couple Doors songs instrumentally and a couple Miles songs instrumentally. One of them being All Blues by Miles Davis, which when I first met Ray in his parents' garage in Manhattan Beach, and Jim was there, but Jim was so shy he wouldn't even sing. And the first song I ever played with Ray, I said, Ray, do you know All Blues by Miles? And he went, yeah. And we played it. Now we have recorded that with Adam, the son of the president who hired us. Nice full circle. Huh?
Full
So those are some
circle.
good liner notes, huh?
Full circle. Well, talking about closing a circle of sorts, and getting into the Doors Unhinged. You know, I know this is something you wrote some years ago, but felt the need to reissue, add a new forward. Can you talk a bit about the decision to
Sure.
revisit this work and
Yeah.
touch upon these themes again through this book?
There's also a new afterword.
Yes.
Um, well, I got a big New York company to sign me for this book, and then they kept saying, write more about Jim. And I kept saying, whoa, I did that. And Riders on the Storm, New York Times bestseller. Well, no, there's more stories. This is not about that. It's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's about a legal struggle, moral struggle. And maybe that should be your campaign. And no, I gave him the money back and self-published. And it was doing fine on the underground radar. And then, oh, wow. When Springsteen and Bob and many others garnered megabucks for their publishing, I thought, whoa, this whole book is about money and legal, this kind of, so maybe it can be officially released. And I found this wonderful little publisher in Brooklyn, Akashic Books, and there you have it.
It's true. Things had changed since the first publication in terms of, as you say, Dylan himself, Springsteen, making these deals to sell their publishing and
I want to talk about that quickly. You know, when I heard the amounts of money, I like was knee jerking, and then I thought, well, what is that, John? Jealousy? What's going on? And then I started to think, oh, wait a minute now. Better that a lot of large amounts of money is in the hands of artists than businessmen. Maybe the artists will be more, well, I have this line in the book. I think I started by saying money's not evil, it's what you do with it. But the line is, money's like fertilizer. When hoarded, it stinks. When spread around, things grow. So maybe the artists will spread it around a little more than the business folks. And that's a good thing, because you get the brass ring, you got to tip your hat back, you know? It's kind of a given, a thank you.
For those of us who are on the call, on this Zoom discussion who maybe haven't read the book yet. Um, Start us off, if you would, with the first key conflict.
Hmm.
Way back when the Doors were still active, all four of you were in it, and there was talk of maybe a car commercial. Can you tell the story a little bit?
Really good, Steve. Actually, we should go a little bit back before that. When we're at Robbie's parents' house, we're trying to find places to rehearse. And on a break, Jim sits up on the back of the sofa. I remember this vividly. And he said, "Look, I don't know how to write songs. I don't know how to play a chord on any instrument, but I have these words and I've thought of melodies to remember the words." So he would just sort of sing a cappella and we'd say, "Okay, F sharp, wait a minute. Okay." So we eked out everything together. And he says, "I think we should split all the publishing, not name me as the lyricist, all songs, all music by the Doors, split all the money. And, in case somebody gets weird, let's have veto power." Well, I mean, what a offer. It each of the four of us gave 200% with that kind of thing going on. And I can't think of any band ever that did that.
Mhm.
And so he's out of town. We're young, trying to pay the rent. And "Come on, Buick, light my fire" comes up. Nice piece of change. And we're kind of drooling. And Jim comes back into town, says, "Yeah, let's do it. We'll do that commercial. And I'll go on television and smash the car with a sledgehammer." Okay, that sounds like a no. And so, and Steve, "Light My Fire" primarily was written by Robbie.
Mhm.
Jim added a Morrison-esque line, "Our love become a funeral pyre," right? But the rest of it was Robbie. But we turned it into this jazz epic together. But him getting so upset meant he cared about the whole catalog, not just his lyrics or whatever the hell. Um, he's now my ancestor. I'm still trying to stand up for that, what he wanted. And I also say in this book, if you're a new band trying to pay the rent, do a commercial. I get it. It's harder than ever. But maybe you want to revisit that decision later. I do quote Tom Waits. He wrote a letter. I wrote a piece in The Nation about this subject, and Tom Waits wrote a letter that said, "You change your lyrics to a jingle, that's the sound of coins in your pocket. And
Mhm.
maybe you just sold your audience." So
Mhm.
it's a volatile thing, but I'm trying to stay with Jim.
Sure. Which is really a theme throughout the book. And of course you have your own principles, but they were in part learned from that response that Jim had to
Yeah.
"Come on, you look like my fire," which is,
Uh,
it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't perhaps do justice to the art we're creating.
I mean, I've heard that song might be the song of the 60s. So, uh, I mean, if it's the soundtrack to people's lives, we were very popular in Vietnam. First time people make love, got high, whatever. I want to kind of keep it pure if I can. So,
So you got through that hiccup with the Buick, the tantalizing offer from Buick, and decades go by, and of course you all lose Morrison. The whole world loses Morrison, and you move on. But you and the guys as a trio, you have a pretty good agreement as to how the business of the Doors legacy is being run. It's not until the '90s that Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek decide, hey, we want to go back out on the road. And here starts a whole contentious
yeah,
situation of who has the right to the band's name.
yeah,
And this conflict and everything, the ramifications of it lead to the bulk of the book, which is I hate to say this about your real life, but it's like a page turning courthouse thriller where, you know, you're racing toward what the verdict is going to be. But
That's
obviously a
okay,
very
Steve. Tom Robbins, a wonderful novelist, and Michael Connelly, a great crime writer, both of them said it's a courtroom thriller.
it
So,
is a courtroom thriller. Nonetheless, it's your real life, and there was a lot at stake. I don't mean financially. I mean, what does it mean to carry on the legacy of one's art and a band that's beloved around the world? Um,
well, you know, what was really disturbing me was, oh, the Stones without Mick, the Police without Sting. Oh, come on. Founding members of the Doors, former members of the Doors, but just tweak the name a little, please. They wouldn't. And so I did this horrendous thing, but I had to. I sued my bandmates, my soul brothers. Lawyers being lawyers, they countersued for more money than all of us collectively made in our entire life to scare me, which they did. But I stayed with it, and it's so interesting. Certainly, my knees got weak when I became Mr. Vito and said no to break on through to Cadillac. I think Led Zeppelin said yes to it eventually, but you know, it was 5 million, then 10, then 15. It's like, holy moly.
mm,
All I could say was, hey guys, now we all have a nice house and a few groovy cars. What are you going to buy? And there was a silence. And that was a deafening silence. It's sort of like, I don't know.
well,
Tavis Smiley said, I'm either really got incredible morals or I'm nuts. But I understand that comment. If you come from a culture that's been so oppressed, grab all the bling you can.
well, you talk about this as the greed gene, as you term it, and I thought I'd read a quote because I
Oh,
think this gets at the heart of this aspect of the book and its themes. As you write, the addiction to money in this culture is as strong as heroin. In fact, when the culture dictates that more money will make you happy, it's a real mind blower to imagine that not everyone wants more of this powerful entity. The greed heads, I mean corporate heads, haven't learned the lesson of George Harrison. His song, Living in the Material World, says that when George got all that dough from being a Beatle, he still felt a void, that something was missing, that money didn't provide all the answers to a complete life. And I love that you bring Harrison in there, who appears as something of a touchstone for you in this book. Can you talk a bit more about this idea of the greed gene and how this figures into the way you wanted to go about preserving your band's legacy?
So I read that John Lennon decided to do this sort of corny tithing of 10% to charity, like people used to do to churches. I think he started it in the 80s, and I think he didn't tithe to churches, probably like me, a little more radical charities or whatever the hell. But I committed to that in the 80s. I'm still up to it. And when the Oliver Stone movie came out, I'm writing the checks and my hand is shaking. Whoa. It's the hand of greed right there in me. I mean, it only means I'm doing really well, 10% of whatever, a larger gross. Oh, it's something running through all of us at varying degrees. And money, currency comes from the word current. It's supposed to flow. It's got to flow. And so the corporate beavers, the hoarders, are backing up the flow. And that's why we get stuck. I know I sound like I'm on a soapbox now, but I am. But I mean, I better just shut up and live by example. But as I said, I'm going to read a passage when we close at the end about, why I love Ray and Robbie. But I lost my train of thought, and I don't smoke that much dope anymore. But anyway,
we'll chalk it up to rapid fire questions like you had to endure in the courtroom. I hope this feels a little more friendly than that did. I want to go back to one thing. It occurs to me again for the folks around the country who are joining us and listening in, if they don't know all the details, just parsing this out a bit more. You didn't have any objection to your former bandmates going out and playing the old songs. You might not have wanted to do that in the moment, but it was okay with you if they did. And they went out on the road with, the great Stuart Copeland on drums, with Ian Astbury fitting into Jim's leather trousers and doing his best Morrison imitation, Ian Astbury from the Cult. It really came down to, whatever one thinks of, someone stepping in. And I mean, there's only one Jim Morrison in the world. To me, it seemed a little foolish as a fan looking in, but at heart, it was really how they were billing themselves. In other words, you're not the Doors if it's not the four of you. You could be Doors founding members. You could be from the Doors. You could be featuring Robbie Krieger of the Doors. Any of those in your mind were perfectly acceptable. It was their insistence on posing as something that they no longer were, if that's fair to say. Am I getting the gist of that correct?
They're great musicians. Go out and play. I get it. I got into writing. I just went a different way. Stuart was in it for a little while. He got dumped because how do I politely say this? Break On Through is a very difficult kind of bossa nova, fast bossa nova. He had trouble with that, as I would have trouble playing any of that brilliant pushy reggae that he did in the Police, because his playing with them is as tight as the gloves he wears when he plays. So much respect. And in fact, ultimately, Stuart testified for me in the trial, because he said when he joined, "Hey, excuse me, who owns the name? Whoa, what are we doing here? I respect John, blah, blah, blah." And they kind of shined him on. So that was troublesome. Yeah, and filling Jim's leather pants, that's a big ticket. Why would I want to play with a Jimitator? I played with Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
your question.
Yes, absolutely. And I just thought we should clarify that, because it's important. It wasn't about you were turning your back on the music or saying, you guys don't go out and play the old classics. It was just the manner in which they were presenting who and what was on stage.
And at first, there were some hardcore fans who thought I was destroying the Doors or something. That's why I kind of I wrote this you could see, and people have come around to realize, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, Jim, Ray, Robbie, John, not Ray, Robbie, Fred, Tom, and Phil.
It's something else.
Yeah.
Let's talk just a little bit about your writing process. This book in particular is very dialogue heavy. And I'm wondering, did you keep notes throughout the weeks and months of the trials, or were you able to access transcripts?
Yeah, I had the transcripts. I had previously written Riders on the Storm, which, oh God. At first I had someone ask me questions and then transcribe the whole thing for Riders on the Storm. And that wasn't a book. And I had a ghostwriter for a second, and it just didn't feel like me. I mean, Robbie wrote a book recently, ghost written, and it's good. The guy got Robbie's prose, but I wanted to learn how to write, and it takes time. It's tough. So I had the transcripts and I read those, and then I just sort of slowly slogged my way through. I mean, books take years, you know. It's funny. Riders on the Storm was a bestseller, and I still was kind of uncomfortable saying I was a writer. I knew I was a musician because of the many years. And then after several little articles like the one in the Nation about selling songs for commercials that went viral, I went, okay, I've honed another avenue of creativity. Not quite as fun as playing in a band, but you could do it alone at night without trying to hoard musicians. So that's my writing process. So when I'm working on a book, I'll spend a few months, a few hours a day here in this room. And then, of course, I'm thinking about it all day, too. And then after a few months, I'll take a break, and then I'll go at it again. So that's the technical aspect.
We learn thanks for sharing that. We learn in the book that one of your break time habits, I suppose, is sleepy time tea, which I was just happy to learn. I liked picturing you steeping your sleepy time tea and trying to calm down after those tough days in the courtroom.
Yeah, it didn't work, but we try.
On that note, you talk about George Harrison, you talk about Bonnie Raitt as an elder, and you use that phrase deliberately and really glorify the status of the elder, which our society doesn't always do.
Let me jump in there. I'm so glad you brought that up. Wow. So I've got Chuck D and I have a rap song. He titled it "No Country for Old Men." And I had written, because he was busy, I wrote some rap and then I rapped it. And then he rapped around me. But it basically goes, everybody gets older, but not everybody gets elder.
Mm.
The elder it looks after the youth. The elder is the roof that looks after what I can't think of it. But anyway, an elder would be someone who cares about future generations coming along, which, kind of important. So
Bonnie Raitt certainly fits that bill and is been someone you've really looked to as a peer and someone you admired. Where does, and Harrison, where does Mr. Zimmerman fit into all of this? You cross paths here and there. You refer to him in the book as quite possibly the greatest songwriter of the 20th century. Who's that hooded figure you run into while he's jogging? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, oh boy. I mean, I quote him all the time. It's just in there. I'm pushing 80, so I find myself saying, it's not dark yet, but it's getting there. Or your days are numbered, so are mine. Yeah. Bob was out in Malibu, as I was, and he went by in a jogging outfit and asked me directions, and I thought, I know that voice. And I said, "Are you Bob Dylan?" And he kind of, and I said, "I'm the Doors drummer." And then he went, "Oh, and he was just asking me directions to some neighbor. And then later, I saw him backstage when we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I was struggling to get him my first book because he okayed some lyrics from Mr. Tambourine Man, which, boy, it took me a year to get that. at first the publisher said, well, it's your drug references or whatever the hell it was. And so I was very pleased that he said yes. And so I wanted to give him the book, and I went over to his house, and these bikers were security, and they acted like that he didn't live there and they'd never heard of him. Okay. But we'll take the book off your hand. Well, that's okay. And so through our old producer, he knew Sarah, I think. Well, it got to him. And so when he was backstage at the Rock Hall, he waved at me, and I came over and I said, did you get my book, the thank you? And he went, yeah. And he said it was a good book. And I thought, I can die now. And then I gave him a little shit. I said, I saw you at the Pantages, and I hadn't seen you since way back at UCLA, the 60s, the folk period, because of how you kind of trashed your songs. And he said, trashed? And I said, oh, what I mean is, kind of change the lyrics or change the melody, and we have to kind of have a contest about which song you're singing. Well, the important thing is you were so good at the Pantages, and you've always had such a great band, and I love you. Da, 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 da. So I heard that he enunciated better for a few months. There's a little impact there.
Thank you, John, from all of us for helping push him in that direction at that period. Couple more things I want to bring up, but then I'll field some of these questions that folks are adding into the chat box here. You went through quite an ordeal with this court case, and it ate up a substantial amount of your time and your energy and your emotion.
And look at the hair, my color of my hair. I think it added to that. But anyway, go ahead.
You dapper and sophisticated. Can you go back and listen to the Doors albums now and put some of the difficulty away and just bask in what you all achieved?
Of course. I don't listen at home so much because I heard the songs 10,000 times in the studio. If I'm in the car, someone makes the choice, a DJ makes the choice to play it. I turn it up and I roll the window down. Hey, it's me. But, I take Bob to task a little bit about some of his, Victoria's Secret commercials and whatever. And then I hear his music, or I hear the Doors music, and it elevates me so much. It's like, what is it that music, it's just direct. It's in the air. If you're looking at a painting, you're looking at an object. In music, it just direct, heart to heart. It feeds the spirit. One of those guys, Beethoven or somebody, said the world would be terrible without music. And Jim Morrison and Bob are extremely gifted, and I'm forever grateful.
Does Jim continue to come to you in dreams on occasion?
A little bit. Okay, so that's what I wanted to close out with. Good. I at the end of the book, after all this struggle, I wanted to. I'm just going to read this to you. It'll take a couple minutes. It's a letter I wrote to Robbie and Ray. Okay, now I have to really mess with the lighting. You ready?
We're ready.
Boy, this has been synchronicity, the way you've cued everything like elders, and here we are. Dear Ray and Robbie, by the way, just a couple nights ago, Jim came through to me in a dream. We were recording, and his performance wasn't up to par. He wasn't drunk, though. He was peaceful and calm. He just couldn't focus, and he was apologetic. He was sorry. I'm sorry, too. Sorry it was so hard for us to support his vision. Sorry that our road has become one of separation from the brothers and bandmates I grew up with. Sorry was the feeling I got from Jim's dream, but he had no regrets. Sorry, but not sorry. The truth is that we took the road that was laid out for us. We're still on it, and who knows where it will turn. Like the words that Jim wrote, I too love the friends Jim gathered on this thin raft. We floated down the Ganges, the holy river of life. Our raft was seaworthy only for a short crossing, though, due to the captain's directions, and the weather was bad. Quickly, everyone went overboard. And to the surprise of some, the captain couldn't swim. Come on, baby, gonna take a little ride down by the ocean side. Get real close, get real tight, going to drown tonight, going down, down, down. When I confronted Jim about his drug and alcohol use, it was my effort to throw him a life vest, but he wasn't interested. His fate had been written. He followed it to his destiny. The destiny of us three remaining sailors isn't finished. Now two. Well, let me stop here for a second. When I heard Ray was getting sick, I called him, and the trial was over. It was still tense, but I had won, fortunately. And he picked up the phone, Steve. People don't pick up the phone, thank God. And we just talked about his medical struggles, and I gave my love to Dorothy. It was a short phone call, and I didn't know it was the last, but it was. And after he passed, I called Robbie and said, you know, death trumps everything. Let's play some music. And so we played at LACMA, LA County Museum of Art, just the two of us and a few hundred people. And we said, we can't sing. Would you help us? And everybody sang everything. So sweet. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets aren't even when you're down. When you're strange. Faces come out of the rain. Yeah, good. I can see lips moving. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. Yeah. So, all right.
Actually, it's great to hear you and Robbie have that moment together.
It was so touching. So let me just finish this. The destiny of us three remaining sailors isn't finished now, too. Fate is still pushing us around. Hopefully forgiveness is in the wings. I just needed to have available for those who are interested in my story of what I went through, and here it is. Now I'm going to tell you what I love about you both. Ray, I felt totally in sync with you musically. It was like we were of one mind holding down the pocket for Robbie and Jim to float on top of. Robbie, my meditation brother, your solos soared like Coltrane. Your intuitive songwriting ability was beyond compare. Ray, thank you for introducing me to Jim. I was so pleased when you and Jim saw what I saw in Robbie. Robbie, I cherish the years we were best friends. I always felt you were the brother I lost. I was the one you lost. And I now know our songs are going to be around after we've exited this global stage. And I am, as I know you are, extremely proud of our accomplishments. We can be remembered as even more special if we don't pollute our gold and if we remember to be generous with the fruits. Sincerely and with deep respect for your artistry, John. So that's my kind of closing of the struggle.
It's beautifully put.
Thanks for that. Bringing up Jim's dream. And you know what he was wearing, Steve? He was like in an Armani suit. He wasn't in leather pants.
Oh, the greed gene.
No, but
Armani.
Well, but dreams are metaphoric. You don't take them literal. You don't have to live out. I think what it meant was he was cleaning up. He wasn't, people say, would he be clean and sober today? Maybe, I used to say no, but it's a different time. And Eminem, angry, great creative guy, and Clapton, it's cool now. Maybe he would be clean and sober. Anyway, what's out there with the crew?
Well, thanks for sharing that letter you wrote, and let's see what folks would like to hear about. Um, from Tim Hudson. Hello, Tim. If you guys were 19 and the Doors came out today, what would you sound like?
The same.
Same.
Not really. I don't know. That is such a I've never had such a provocative question. I love it. It's kind of like I'm asked if I had to do it over again, would I do it different? Yes and no. Yes, because I hopefully would learn from it. Therefore, if we're in this period now of time, then I would be influenced by the music and the state of the world. So we would be different. And no, because I'm kind of comfortable with who I am now. And I'm quite proud of the Doors music and sound. So maybe it would be just the same. Yes and no to that. So, as I said, I have a new jazz album, so I'm very excited about this. And something about it, I was thinking of calling it Door Jams and Miles to Go.
You got multiple puns in there.
We do a beautiful version of this is all instrumental of Crystal Ship, a jazz version, and this great pianist, Adam Holzman, did a tribute to Ray, excerpts from the Soft Parade. And as I said, we did all blues by Miles. So yeah, maybe the fall, I hope.
Well, between that and the Chuck D project, this is really exciting. You've given us a lot to look forward to. A couple of other questions. Hi, Steve and John. Very little about Ian Astbury's involvement in the Doors reboot in the book. Curious if John has any more thoughts about that, any comparisons between the cult and the Doors, and Jim Morrison perhaps being credited as the prototype for the goth movement of the 1980s.
I don't really know the cult's music very much. I mean, Ian's a good singer. He's got pipes, that's for sure. It's just Jim has a cult. He didn't have to call us the cult. Oh, that was arrogant. What can I say? I wish Ian well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Here's one from Rick. I was lucky enough to have been at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction when you guys performed a tremendous set with Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone there thought that Eddie was trying to imitate Jim Morrison. You guys performing that great music again breathed new life into it. Was there ever any possibility of doing more with Eddie Vedder? I know the two of you have been on stage together, but was there talk of the three of you and Eddie doing anything else?
There wasn't, but there is talk now because people are telling me next year is our 60th, although I don't know how that calculates. But, promoters, they get hooks in their skull. And so there's, Willie Nelson had his 90th birthday party at the Hollywood Bowl. There's talk of our 60th, it's a similar kind of event. I heard rumors that, other people would play and Robbie and I would sit in here and there. And I heard rumors that Eddie was maybe up for it and Bono. And so who knows? But yeah, that's a really wonderful distinction. He did not have leather pants on when he graced the stage with us for the rock and roll induction. Eddie's pipes, there's a gift. They're so deep, and he's just a little guy, but they sound such gravitas. I think in some interviews I said he's the only at least vocally, he's the only guy that could fill Jim's leather pants.
Hmm.
But
All right, I think we collectively encourage you to think about this 60th anniversary idea, and it'd be a wonderful way for these artists who you
yeah,
all paved the way for to pay homage.
it'd be
It'd be,
flattering.
yeah.
Be fun.
A comment from Sigrid. Hi, Sigrid, member and joins us on a lot of events. So personal and unpretentious. Thank you, John and Steve. Well, thank you. Great sense of humor, John. Very cool. I think you've passed the audition. This has been just such a treat to be able to hear these stories from you, John. Thank you so much for sharing with us through your books, through your music, through everything you stand for, through good times and bad. We're with you, and we know you're with us, and the Doors are with us forever. So thank you so much.
Yeah, boy, I am with you more. I had a hunch that folks who were in the Bob Dylan Center crew would be really kind of smart and great creativity, and it's been a total pleasure.
Well, that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
From the 16-year-old who listened obsessively to your albums in the San Fernando Valley growing up, and coming home from high school and putting on those records, this means a lot.
Yeah, it makes me want to get out to Tulsa.
Come on out. We'd love to have you here.
Okay.
One last comment, and then we'll let you go. Thanks for changing so many lives, and thanks for allowing us to be on your voyage. And that's from Tim. Thank you, Tim. I think you summarized it nicely. John, we wish you all the best. We'll see you out here in Tulsa whenever the time is right. To all Bob Dylan Center members and folks who joined us for this conversation, thank you, thank you, thank you. Come on back in a couple months for our conversation with Terry Thal, and we'll keep stuff going. Be well, everyone. Thank you, John. Take care.